I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, I thought things with Emily were solid until they were. We've been married for about 6 years now, and for the most part, we had this routine that felt comfortable but not exactly passionate. She's always been a bit bitchy, sharp-tongued, quick to dismiss anything that didn't suit her mood. But I figured that was just her personality. I'd come home after work, cook dinner, maybe catch a movie and call it a day. Nothing special, but we got along, or so I thought. Lately, though, I'd noticed small things. She'd be oddly secretive, hiding her phone when I was around, sneaking texts. She'd come home late without much explanation and seemed more dismissive than usual. I brushed it off, telling myself she was just stressed at work, maybe annoyed about the climate project we're working on. That's where I work, as a climate crisis analyst. I've been part of this planetary preservation initiative for a couple of years now, specifically focusing on preventing tipping points in environmental systems. Emily knows about it, of course, but she's never really cared. She's always been dismissive about anything remotely environmental, calling it boring or meaningless. So I figured her attitude was just her usual bitchy attitude kicking in. But then last week I started noticing strange things. Her phone kept buzzing late at night, a lot. She'd quickly swipe away the screen or hide it when I entered the room. I'd catch glimpses of messages, sometimes just a name, sometimes a short reply, but it was enough to make me suspicious. I never used to get paranoid, but something felt off. Then I saw her get a little too defensive when I asked about her late nights or her disappearing acts. She'd snap back at me, accuse me of being paranoid, say I was overthinking things. That's when I started paying closer attention. I decided to check her phone when she was asleep one night. I know that's probably creepy, but I felt like I had to do it. I unlocked her phone, she left it on the nightstand, and scrolled through her messages. What I saw made my stomach drop. It was a string of texts between her and someone named Jake. The tone was flirty, suggestive even. She was talking about meeting up, about the fun they'd have, and there were even some explicit messages. I saw pictures too, not explicit, thank God, but enough to know something was happening. I felt a sick mix of anger and heartbreak. How could she do this? After everything we've been through, after I've trusted her. I spent the next day trying to process it. I felt numb at first, then furious. I kept replaying those messages in my head. I had no idea Emily was capable of this kind of betrayal. She'd always been good at hiding her true self, or maybe I was just blind. I thought we were solid. Turns out I was just fooling myself. That night I waited for her to come home, my mind racing. I wanted to confront her then and there, but a part of me hesitated. I needed to plan, needed to figure out what to say, what to do. It was one thing to suspect. It was another to have hard proof. When she finally walked through the door, I greeted her, calm on the outside but boiling inside. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, like she knew she had the upper hand. I asked her straight up about her phone, about Jake. Her face froze for a second, then she started with her usual bullshit, denying everything, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying because I didn't trust her. Her words stung. I felt like I was being punched in the gut. She called me controlling, jealous, insecure, but I was just hurt, betrayed. In that moment, I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't yet know what. All I knew was that my world was crumbling, and I'd never seen her so bitchy, so manipulative, so willing to lie outright to my face. After that confrontation, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying everything in my head, the sneaky texts, her dismissive attitude, the way she lied with that irritating smirk. It was like I didn't even recognize her anymore. I felt this deep ache in my chest, a mixture of betrayal, anger, and sadness. I couldn't understand how she could be so callous, so okay with lying to my face. She's always been bitchy, yeah, but this was something else. It was like she had no remorse, no guilt. Just the same dismissiveness, the same snarky attitude, like she thought she could get away with it. I started noticing other things too. The way she avoided me, the way she'd get defensive whenever I brought up her late nights or her phone. Little details that didn't seem important at first, but now they added up. I caught her in little lies about where she'd been, who she was hanging out with. I didn't want to believe it at first, but the evidence was piling up. I even found receipts from a coffee shop she'd visited, and the timing was suspicious. She'd be gone for hours, and I knew it wasn't work-related. She sent a few suggestive texts to Jake at times I was still home. It was obvious. She was cheating on me, and she didn't even care. That's when the idea of revenge started taking root. I knew I couldn't just let her get away with it. I had to do something, but I wanted it to hurt, really hurt her. I wasn't just angry. I was pissed off that she thought she could do this and get away with it. I spent the next couple of days gathering my thoughts, planning how I could hit back hard without making a scene, without just blowing everything up for no reason. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling: betrayed, humiliated, powerless. That's when I started developing a plan, one that would make her regret ever crossing me. I knew her weak spot: her arrogance. She's a bitch about her appearance, always demanding things go her way, never backing down from a fight. I decided I'd use her pride against her. I started by digging into her phone more, saving some of those texts, taking screenshots just to have proof of her infidelity. I also contacted a private investigator. I didn't want to do this blindly. I needed undeniable proof. Meanwhile, I played it cool, pretending everything was normal. I'd come home, act like I didn't know, all while secretly preparing my move. I even started thinking about how to confront her in a way that would maximize her humiliation. One night I caught her sneaking out again, probably to meet Jake. She was dressed to impress, like she was going to some secret rendezvous. That was the tipping point. I saw her slip out the back door, and I decided enough was enough. I followed her at a safe distance, heart pounding in my chest. I watched her meet Jake at a restaurant nearby, and I got the confirmation I needed. They kissed, held hands, and clearly had been doing more than just talking. I felt this surge of rage, and then strangely, a strange sense of relief. I finally knew for sure. I had what I needed to destroy her lies. The next day, I sat her down and told her I knew everything. Her face twisted into that bitchy sneer again, and she started spinning her usual lies, claiming I was crazy, paranoid, that she loved me, that Jake was just a friend. But I had the proof: screenshots, receipts, eyewitness testimony from the investigator. I laid it all out, in her reaction. Shock, then denial, then outright anger. She called me obsessive, said I was ruining her life, and that I was overreacting. But it was too late for her to deny it now. I had everything on her. I watched her try to turn it around, act like the victim, but I was done listening. I was done pretending she was innocent. I knew the truth, and I knew I had to decide what to do next. After I laid everything out: proof, evidence, everything, I watched her face twist with fury and disdain. Emily's bitchy attitude kicked into overdrive, and she started yelling, calling me crazy, accusing me of stalking her, of being possessive. She screamed about how I was destroying her life, how I didn't understand her, how she deserved some freedom. It was classic Emily, throwing blame back on me, trying to make me feel guilty for catching her. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I felt a cold, hard clarity settle over me. Honestly, I was furious, but also relieved. For the first time, I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could cheat on me and then lie her way out of it. She kept insisting she was innocent, saying Jake was just a mistake, that it meant nothing, that she'd never meant to hurt me. That's when I snapped a little. I told her that her intervention threshold, her ability to just keep lying and pushing boundaries, had officially been crossed. I told her I wasn't going to be the fool anymore, that I wasn't going to sit around while she played her game. I said I was done with her bullshit, done with her lies. I told her she could keep pretending she was innocent, but I had the proof, and I was going to do what I needed to do. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't stay with someone who thought she could just cheat and lie and then act like I was the crazy one for catching her at it. I knew I had to leave. But I also knew I wanted her to feel the weight of her actions, so I started planning my revenge. I didn't want some petty fight or a messy breakup. I wanted to hit her where it hurt: her pride, her ego, her sense of control. I decided the best way was to expose her to her friends and family, make her feel humiliated in front of everyone she cared about. That would be the ultimate blow. Meanwhile, I continued gathering more evidence, making sure I had every detail, every conversation saved. I reached out to a few mutual friends, subtly hinting that I knew about her affair. I didn't want to come off as desperate or vengeful, but I wanted her to know I wasn't blind anymore. I also started recording her, a secret camera in the house, just in case she tried to deny her cheating when I confronted her again. I wasn't planning on playing nice anymore. I wanted her to see that I had the power, that I was serious about ending this chapter of our lives. The next few days were a roller coaster. Emily kept up her act, trying to charm her way out of the situation, pretending she still loved me, still wanted to save the marriage. But I saw through it. It was all bullshit, and I let her know I wasn't buying her lies anymore. I'd already made up my mind to leave. I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer, looked into my options, and prepared myself for what was coming. Deep down, I knew this was going to get ugly, but I didn't care. I needed her to feel what she'd done, how her betrayal had shattered us. It was the only way I'd regain some sense of control over my life after everything she'd stolen from me. The day I decided to confront her again, I was ready. I had everything laid out: screenshots, recordings, the investigators' reports, every piece of evidence that proved she'd been lying, cheating, and manipulating me. I knew she'd deny it all, but I didn't care anymore. I was done pretending. When she came home that evening, I was already sitting in the living room, calm but firm. Her bitchy smirk was back, like she thought she could just talk her way out of another mess. But this time I was ready. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Emily, I know everything. I know about Jake. I know about the late nights, the sneaking around. I've got the proof, and I'm done with your lies." Her face flickered with a mixture of anger and disbelief, but she tried her usual dismissive attitude, telling me I was making a huge mistake, that I was overreacting, that she loved me, and that Jake was just a friend. I cut her off, showing her the screenshots and recordings I had collected. Her face turned red, then pale when she realized I wasn't bluffing. Her reaction was classic. She started yelling, calling me obsessive, controlling, jealous. She said I was ruining everything, that I was just insecure. But I stayed calm. I knew that her words were just her way of trying to spin the story in her favor. I told her that her intervention threshold, her ability to lie and manipulate, had been crossed and there was no going back. I told her I'd had enough, that her lies and betrayal had broken whatever trust we had left. I said I was leaving, and I was going to make sure everyone knew what kind of person she really was. Her bitchiness escalated. She started crying, throwing tantrums, trying to guilt-trip me into staying. She begged, pleaded, called me every name in the book, everything to try to turn the situation around. But I wasn't buying it. I knew this wasn't about love anymore. It was about her ego, her pride, her ability to lie her way out of trouble. I told her that I didn't want her any longer, that I was done being a victim of her manipulations. I told her I'd already contacted a lawyer and that I was planning to file for divorce. That's when she really snapped. She went into full bitchy mode, yelling at me, calling me a controlling bastard, threatening to ruin me, saying I'd regret this. I stayed firm. I told her she was toxic, that I deserved better, that I was tired of her lies and her games. I told her that her intervention threshold had finally been breached and that I was walking away with my dignity intact. I knew this was going to be messy, and I knew she'd try to fight, but I didn't care anymore. I was done being her punching bag. I was done pretending everything was okay. That night, I packed a bag and left, knowing I'd never look back. The aftermath was a whirlwind. She tried to contact me to apologize, to plead her case, but I blocked her everywhere. Some mutual friends told me she was trashing me, calling me crazy and insecure, but I didn't care. I knew the truth. I'd exposed her for what she really was, someone who betrayed her vows, lied, and used me to cover her own selfish needs. I felt a mix of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I finally freed myself from her manipulation, heartbreak because I'd lost what I thought was my partner. But I knew I'd survive. I also knew that she was the type who would never change, that her bitchy attitude, her lying, her manipulative bullshit was just who she was. In the end, I learned a lot from this. Never ignore the signs, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to fight for yourself, even if it means destroying the person you once loved. Because if they're capable of cheating behind your back, lying to your face, and then turning around to blame you for everything, they're not worth your pain. I've moved on now, rebuilding my life, and I tell anyone in a similar situation, trust your gut, get the proof, and don't ever let anyone hold you hostage with their lies. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away. It's been a few months since I left her, and honestly, at first I thought I'd miss the comfort, the familiarity. But the truth is, I feel lighter, like a weight been lifted off my shoulders. Still, the scars from everything linger. I keep replaying those nights I caught her sneaking out, the lies she told, the way she dismissed me like I was nothing. It's a bitter pill to swallow, knowing someone you trusted so completely was capable of that level of betrayal. But I also realize I learned something vital. I can survive this. I can rebuild myself from the wreckage of her lies. I've started seeing a therapist, not just to deal with the breakup, but to process what I've been through. It's helped me understand that what I went through wasn't just about her cheating. It was about realizing my worth. I was with someone who played me, who used her bitchy attitude as a shield to hide her manipulations. That realization stung, but it was also freeing. I don't blame myself. I trusted her because I wanted to believe in the best in her, but she chose to be a different person. And now I get to choose what kind of life I want to build from here. I've been dadding casually, nothing serious, just reconnecting with life outside of that toxic relationship. It's been a good experience, actually. I've learned to set boundaries, to recognize red flags, and to trust my instincts. I don't tolerate bullshit anymore, and I definitely don't let anyone play with my emotions like I did with Emily. I've become more guarded, but also more aware of what I deserve. I guess that's the silver lining. This betrayal taught me to value myself more, to see through bullshit faster, and to never settle for someone who treats me like I'm disposable. Looking back, I realized that Emily's bitchiness was her armor, her way of controlling how people saw her. Deep down, I think she's insecure, scared of losing her independence or being exposed as a liar. The fact that she lied so blatantly, tried to manipulate everyone around her, just proved how much she relies on deception. I'm glad I saw through it before I wasted more years with her. Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to realize your own strength. I'm still healing, still fighting off the sting of betrayal, but I know I'll get there. To anyone out there going through something similar, trust yourself. Don't ignore the signs. If your partner's actions don't match their words, pay attention. It's better to find out early than to stay blind and get hurt worse in the long run. And remember, revenge isn't about hurting them back. It's about reclaiming your power. I did that by walking away, by exposing her lies, and by choosing to rebuild. It's not easy, but it's worth it. I don't plan to dwell on the past anymore. I'm focused on my future, one where I respect myself. And don't accept bullshit. Emily's out of my life now, and I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. That bitchy, manipulative woman isn't who I am. I'm better than that. And I'll keep moving forward, learning, growing, and making sure I never let anyone treat me that way again. That's the real lesson, self-respect and knowing when to walk away. Looking back now, I realize how much I underestimated her, how much I ignored the little signs that pointed to her being someone I shouldn't have trusted. I was so blind in love, or maybe just desperate to keep everything normal, that I ignored the bitchy attitude, the secretive behavior, the way she dismissed my concerns as paranoia. But the truth is, I was lucky I found out when I did. If I'd stayed any longer, I might have lost more than just my trust. I could have lost myself. What hurt the most wasn't just that she cheated. It was the way she lied so effortlessly, as if her betrayal was just a game to her. She's the kind of person who's always been good at manipulating her image, hiding her true self behind that bitchy facade. But I saw through it. I saw her for what she really was: selfish, manipulative, and utterly ruthless when it came to protecting her own ass. That realization broke my heart, but it also set me free. Now I don't hold on to bitterness or resentment. I acknowledge what happened, learn from it, and move forward. I've come to accept that some people just aren't worth the effort, especially those who lie and cheat without remorse. I found peace in knowing I did everything I could to uncover the truth and to protect myself. No more excuses, no more wasted years on someone who thought she was above the rules. I've realized my worth and I refuse to let anyone diminish that again. The lesson I want to leave here is simple but powerful. Don't ever let anyone treat you like you're disposable. If you notice the signs, secretive behavior, lies, dismissiveness, trust your instincts. Confront it head on or walk away. You're better off alone than with someone who manipulates and betrays you. Revenge isn't about hurting them, it's about reclaiming your dignity. I did that by exposing her, walking out, and choosing to rebuild my life on my terms. I've started focusing on myself, my career, my hobbies, my friends. I've realized that my happiness doesn't depend on someone else's approval, especially not someone like Emily. She was just a chapter I needed to close. Now I'm looking ahead, knowing I've grown stronger from this mess. I don't regret the painful parts because they made me better, more aware, more resilient. And I want everyone reading this to know, if you're in a similar situation, never doubt your worth. The right people will never make you feel like you're less. The right people will respect you, be honest, and never cheat or lie. So here's my final takeaway. Love yourself enough to walk away from betrayal. Don't let anyone play you for a fool. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and self-respect are all that really matter. And I can honestly say, in the aftermath of everything, I'm finally starting to feel like I'm back in control of my life. Wiser, stronger, and more ready than ever to face whatever comes next.